All right, today we're going to be explorers, and our destination is one of the most influential and maybe one of the most misunderstood books in history. Look, my goal here isn't to tell you what it all means. It's to give you a map and a toolkit for your very own expedition into the text.
So let's just dive right in with a classic example. I mean, you've seen this verse, Philippians 4:13, everywhere, right? On posters, on t-shirts. It's usually taken to mean something like, I can achieve anything I want. But if you look at other translations, you get a totally different vibe, one about endurance, not just accomplishment.
So which one is it? Is this verse about winning the game, or is it about just surviving it? And this one little verse, man, it just cracks open this huge question: how can a single sentence be understood in two completely different ways? The answer to that is the key to reading the whole book with fresh eyes.
But here's the thing, it's not some big secret. It really just comes down to having the right tools in your explorer's toolkit. See, a good explorer doesn't just land on a random spot on the map and start guessing. They know how to read the terrain. So let's gear up.
Okay, so tool number one. This one is all about figuring out what kind of writing you're even looking at. And to get our heads around this, let's start with a really simple analogy: sorting your mail.
Think about it. When you get the mail, you don't just rip everything open and start reading, right? No, you sort it. You do it automatically without even thinking about it. You just know that glossy junk mail is different from an official-looking bill, and that bill is different from a handwritten card.
You're not going to read a credit card bill the same way you read a letter from your grandma, are you? You don't take the promises in an ad as seriously as a final payment notice. You naturally adjust your expectations based on the type of mail it is. That simple act, that's identifying the genre.
And that is exactly how we need to approach the Bible. See, it's not just one single book. It's really a library. It's got personal letters, epic poems, history, and these things called parables. And each one has its own set of rules. You got to read them on their own terms.
Okay, so let's zoom in on one of these genres as an example: parables. These are the short, punchy stories that Jesus told to make a single powerful point. Really, you can just think of them as extended metaphors.
All right, so here's the big warning label for parables. Don't get lost in the weeds. A huge mistake people make is trying to assign a secret symbolic meaning to every single detail: the tree, the coin, the road. Most of the time, those details are just there to tell the story. Your job is to find the one single big idea the story is trying to get across.
Okay, so now we know to ask, what kind of writing is this? But you know what? That's not quite enough. Our second tool is super simple, but absolutely essential, and that tool is context, because no sentence just floats in space by itself. Just take a look at this quote right here. "All these I will give you, if you will fall down and worship me." I mean, wow, you could totally slap that on a motivational poster, right? It sounds like this incredible promise of reward for your devotion.
It sounds like this powerful offer, right? Kingdoms, glory, the whole deal. But the most important question you can ever ask as an explorer of any text is, who's talking? And who are they talking to? And why?
Yeah, that was Satan, talking to Jesus, trying to tempt him out in the desert. And just like that, the meaning completely flips on its head. So yeah, context isn't just important, it is literally everything.
Which brings us perfectly to our third tool, where we zoom way in, down to the smallest possible unit, the individual word. You know, words can be pretty slippery things. I mean, just think about a simple word like run. This one little word can mean dozens of different things. So, with all those meanings, how on earth do you know which one is right? You guessed it. Context again.
Now this is where a lot of people fall into a really common trap. It's called the etymological fallacy. It sounds fancy, but it's just the mistaken idea that a word's true meaning is somehow locked away in its ancient history or its original parts.
It's why a butterfly isn't a fly made of butter, right? Or why a pineapple has nothing to do with pines or apples. The meaning comes from how the author is using the word in that specific sentence. So, what's the big takeaway? Usage is king, always.
All right, so we've got our tools. We've got genre, context, and word meaning. Now we can put it all together and start to see the entire landscape, the big picture, the grand narrative of the whole collection.
You know, it's kind of like rereading the Harry Potter series. The first time you read it, you're just caught up in the plot. But the second time through, you know how it ends. And you start picking up on all the clever foreshadowing, right? You see how a tiny little detail in book 1 becomes this hugely important thing in book 7. You're tracing themes across the entire story.
And believe it or not, you see this exact same thing happening all through the Bible. Take the idea of the temple, the place where God lives with people. It starts in the Garden of Eden, then it becomes a portable tent, and then this huge permanent building. But then Jesus comes along and calls his body the temple. Later, the community of believers is called a temple, until it all ends with this grand vision of God just living with humanity, no temple needed. It's one theme developing from page 1 to the very end.
And that right there, that's the payoff. When you use these tools, you can finally go back and solve puzzles like Philippians 4:13. You see, it's from a personal letter, a specific genre. It was written by someone in prison, that's the context. And he's using the word strength to talk about endurance. Suddenly, it all clicks into place. You're not just reading an isolated verse, you're seeing how it fits into this huge interconnected story. You're not just a reader anymore, you're a true explorer.
And you know, there's just so much value in doing this work for yourself. The writer C.S. Lewis, he made this great point once. He said we spend so much time reading books about the great books, instead of just reading the great books themselves. But he argued that going straight to the source is not only more valuable, it's usually easier and way more fun.
So, our little tour ends here, but hopefully your own exploration is just getting started. With the right tools, you're not a passive reader anymore, you're an active investigator. And in the end, the question isn't about what I or anyone else tells you is in there, it's this: what will you discover when you look at the book for yourself?